Yo, what's up guys, it's NLW here, back again with another video. Today, another action figure setup. This was requested by Flynn Lankin over on Patreon. If you too would like to request a figure setup and get exclusive access to more bonus content, head over to www.patreon.com/NoLimitsWrestling and become a backer today. But Flynn asked me today to do a setup with my favourite Wrestlemania matches. Before we start though, couple of honourable mentions. WrestleMania 17 had TLC 2 and Austin Rock, but I've already made those in a previous setup video. Also, Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, that's the obvious one. And Daniel Bryan beating Batista at WrestleMania 30 to become the WWE Champion. So the reason they're not in this one, already had them in previous figure setups, but these are just some of my favourite WrestleMania matches. So without further ado, let's get into it. So number one, let's go all the way back to 1987, WrestleMania 3, the iconic Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. Although not a technical masterpiece by any means, the story was fantastic. And then Andre being lifted up by Hogan, slammed down, starting the wrestling boom in the 80s. Hulkamania was running wild. Such a historic moment on the biggest stage possible. Great show all around. Now we move a few years in the future, the retirement match between the Ultimate Warrior and the Macho King, Randy Savage. If you go back in the early days of the WWF, back in the early 90s, this one was fantastic. Probably the Ultimate Warrior's best WWF match ever. Went tooth for nail with Randy Savage. Ultimately, the Ultimate Warrior defeated Randy Savage and Savage was retired. Not for too long though. And then of course at the end, the historic moment between Miss Elizabeth and Randy Savage reuniting. Women crying in the audience, fans cheering, lapping it up. I feel like it gets overlooked a lot these days, but I love that, watching that match back, especially because I bought it on DVD and back in the day I used to watch it over and over again. Speaking of another match I used to watch over and over again, the first ever ladder match, or at least the first televised ladder match, between Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels, the unification match for the Intercontinental title. If you go back and watch it, a lot of the spots, they seem mundane by today's standards, but at the time, it was innovative and it was groundbreaking, really. And Razor Ramon climbed the ladder, Shawn Michaels defeated by Razor Ramon, the new Intercontinental Champion in Madison Square Garden. Now fast forward a few more years into the future, you got WrestleMania 13, overall pretty dismal card, except for one match, one of the greatest WrestleMania matches, if not the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, between Bret the Hitman Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin. You had Ken Shamrock as the referee for this one, and the iconic shot of Austin dripping with blood wrenched the sharpshooter in, and Bret Hart didn't make Austin tap out. Austin passed out from blood loss. A lot of people call it a double turn, but it really wasn't a double turn because they were already kind of switching roles in the build up to it anyway. So Bret beats Austin. Austin, from here on, catapulted into megastardom, the great feud with Hart Foundation in 1997, kickstarting the Austin era more than the King of the Ring did. Now we move on to another iconic match that a lot of people didn't expect to see. It is The Rock and Hulk Hogan from WrestleMania 18. Like Hogan Andre, not a technical masterpiece by any means, but the way that these two are able to command the crowd and manipulate their reactions. Ultimately, it was The Rock with the 1-2-3, but after this, Hogan went on somewhat of a nostalgia run. Wasn't as good as this matchup, but an iconic WrestleMania moment. I actually got the WrestleMania 18 poster from the DVD I got a few years ago. Brilliant stuff. And then just 1 year later, it seemed as though the landscape of WWE had changed drastically. This was the first WrestleMania under the WWE banner, and the main event was Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar. And it may have been surprising that these two main evented, but it cemented Brock Lesnar as a massive superstar. Kurt Angle also wrestling this match with a broken neck. It's incredible to think that Kurt Angle was hanging on by a thread, injury-wise, and still managed to craft this incredible WrestleMania main event. It was hard-hitting. There were slams onto turnbuckles, throws, suplexes, you name it. And then, of course, the infamous spot. Brock Lesnar goes to the top rope, tries to hit his shooting star press, but fails, concusses himself, nearly breaks his neck, and somehow they are able to make the finish. It was scary, but it goes down in WrestleMania history, and if you're going to try it, why not try it at WrestleMania? So Brock Lesnar pinning Kurt Angle and then showing a sign of respect, hugging each other after the bell. And speaking of hugging, another year later goes Benoit, Eddie, hugging in the ring with their respective world titles. Obviously, power of hindsight makes this one hard to watch nowadays, but it was still an emotional moment at the time for fans of wrestling. Benoit in one of the best Mania matches ever, beating Triple H, making him tap out in a triple threat match as well, including Shawn Michaels, winning the world title, and it really did feel like a change was in the air. Sadly, of course, future events turned out this wasn't the case, but it was still a great moment nonetheless. And you can tell I've got a soft spot for the Ruthless Aggression era because now we got another match from the Ruthless Aggression era, Angle and Michaels WrestleMania 21. If you haven't seen this one, go back and watch it right now. The two best wrestlers in the company at the time, interpromotional warfare. They go on to have matches similar in quality, but I don't think any of them top this one. This was phenomenal. Angle eventually made Shawn Michaels tap out. He was screaming in agony, but he had to tap. Great stuff all around there. And the year after, one of the most brutal matches in WWE history was to come at WrestleMania 22 when Edge faced Mick Foley in a hardcore match. And as soon as I say it, you probably got the spot in your head. The spear through the flaming table. It was absolutely insane. Mick Foley, credit to him, is fantastic at putting over young talent, especially in his later years. He really boosted the careers of Edge and Randy Orton. An absolutely brutal matchup. And speaking of brutal, Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania 28, Triple H and The Undertaker. The end of an era. This one had a lot of emotion to it. This was just the incredible string of matches The Undertaker had at WrestleMania against Shawn Michaels, then Triple H. 4 set of matches was fantastic, capped off with this delightful Hell in a Cell. Shawn Michaels played his role perfectly as the referee. Part of me at the time thought that Triple H could retire The Undertaker and end the streak, but it wasn't to be. We'd have to wait a few years for that, and it was The Undertaker hitting the tombstone on Triple H inside Hell in a Cell, securing the win and making sure the streak was intact for now, and then walking up the ramp and hugging. Now nearly a decade later, one of my favourite matches of the modern era, and I can't remember the last time. Probably the last time I felt this much emotion watching wrestling was when Daniel Bryan won the world title, but Kofi Mania, running wild, absolutely amazing matchup. I have to say, incredible. I was gutted when Ali was taken out of the Elimination Chamber, but when Kofi snapped up that opportunity, they really did catch lightning in a bottle. They didn't push against it this time, which was fantastic. It's a shame that Kofi's not in the main event anymore because he was very sympathetic, and the matches leading up to Mania, very good. Like I said, the Elimination Chamber beforehand was full of emotion, and you could see that the crowd was firmly behind Kofi, and I truly believe that that's what led to Kofi winning the title at WrestleMania. It had drama, it also had the high work rate of the modern era, especially when you got Daniel Bryan in there, playing a fantastic smarmy heel. Kofi Kingston finally hit Trouble in Paradise, won the WWE title in front of a massive crowd, celebrating with his kids, and what more can you ask for? A fantastic moment. You can only hope that Big E enjoys the same success on his singles run now. And finally on this list, we come to The Undertaker and AJ Styles in the Boneyard match from WrestleMania 36. Since WrestleMania, I've probably watched this match about 5 straight times, just for the memes and for the sheer production quality of it. It was fantastic. Talk about making the best out of a bad situation. Hopefully The Undertaker stays retired, because this was the perfect way to cap off a career. Would it have been as good in an arena? I'm not sure. I don't think so. The fact that you had this unique setting really elevated the match, and of course Jeremy Borash, who's behind a lot of the Hardy Compound stuff back in TNA, he was on hand to help with this matchup. A cinematic masterpiece, and the final shot of AJ buried alive with just one glove sticking out. What a fantastic visual to end WrestleMania Night 1 on. Certainly the most unique match on this list. So those are just a few of my favourite WrestleMania matches of all time. Once again, thank you to Flynn Lampkin on Patreon for requesting this figure setup. If you want to request a figure setup of your own, or even request your own match for me to make, head over to my Patreon, the link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like as it really helps the channel. Also, if you're not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button as we're trying to edge closer to 30,000 subs, and make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Also, leave a comment. What are your favourite WrestleMania matches? Are there any that I've left off? Do you disagree or agree with my list? Let me know, sound off in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed this look at WrestleMania's past, and I will catch you guys later.